Today, we are talking about one of the biggest challenges there is for precision ag dealerships. How do you stand out when everybody is selling the exact same products, systems, um, services that you also offer? So, Brad and I are going to tackle this and provide some key tips to help you differentiate yourself and stand out. My goodness, Brad, it feels like a Friday or a Monday. I don't know. But here we are trying to record this, and I'm getting tongue tied already about this great subject. But thank you for joining me, Brad.
Thanks for having me. We're going to have some fun unpacking this. It's always good to see you. Nothing's perfect. We just roll and try to deliver value.
We are. So before Brad and I started to record, I had mentioned that I was doing a little refresher on the StoryBrand. Some people may be familiar with this book, and it's Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, an excellent resource. And as I was doing a refresher, it really brought something to the forefront in the fact that if a lot of ag dealerships look at their inventory, chances are they're going to have exactly the same parts, pieces, items that farmers can buy or growers can buy from many places. But those relationships that you have, the way that you service and really help the growers in your area, help you stand out. But we want to take it one step further, and we want to talk about your digital footprint, that people that may not know you personally, as to how they start learning about you and what makes you and your dealership different. So, Brad, I know you also have enjoyed reading a lot of Donald Miller's books and learning from him.
Yep, I have read that book before, and I think it makes a lot of sense because, like you just said, a lot of businesses, not even depending on what type it is, most all businesses have other companies, competitors, whatever you want to call them, that have the same services, products, items, that type of thing. So, how do you differentiate? How do you stand out? And I think you hit it on the head early is how you treat people in those relationships.
Yes, very much so. Now, he goes into seven main points. We're just kind of going to give you a very high level of basically 4 points today, but hopefully those are areas where you as a dealership owner or the marketer within those dealerships can take them and start, going through your current website, going through some of the marketing pieces that you have and saying, okay, yes, we have a lot of product specs, but what can we do that really puts the fact that we understand what you as a farmer, you as a grower, you as a rancher are going through? And so the very first thing is you're not the hero. The farmer or the grower is the hero. So keep that always in mind. If we would reflect on any great movie that we've watched, whether it be Yoda, he's not the hero, he's the guide. So when you start looking at any movie example, you can probably differentiate as to which one is the hero and which one's the guide. And you, as that owner, as the manager, as somebody working for an ag dealership, you want to be the guide because you want to hear and understand what that farmer is going through, especially the ups and downs of any season, and guide them to what they consider their success.
That's exactly right. And I think that you gave a good analogy or a good example, using movies so that people can understand, and relate to this concept.
Yes, I think that's the arc of every movie. I think if we do just stay back and reflect as to, okay, it gives us a way to understand things better. One of the things that Brad and I were talking about a little bit is the fact that when we are working with companies to write their about pages, we get asking, digging in, learning the history of how businesses came to be. And there's some really great stories out there where a lot of times businesses are still in business because they've had their grandfather started it several years ago, or there's some kind of partnership that people came together in the community and felt that something was missing and they moved forward that way. Those are fantastic stories, but unfortunately, our customers really don't want to, they don't care that much about us. at first until we have solved something for them. So when we are telling the about stories now on websites, again, using what Donald Miller has taught us, is you want to put that story in a way that they can see how you've solved problems. So, and then that becomes more interesting if you give the backstory and the history as to how your grandfather started the business or how you stepped up because you saw that there was a need in your area and filled that. So, I think that empathy, the hearing what they're searching for and having your about story kind of carry them, guide them through the arc of that whole venture to show that, hey, you've helped others find success. Wouldn't you agree, Brad?
Yeah, I would agree. And it's almost the old analogy of what have you done for me lately? It doesn't mean that customers don't appreciate that you've been in business for 91 years, but there's got to be more to it. There's got to be, it's got to be, you're the guide, and they have to see the value of why they would want to work with you, your company, versus somebody else.
Right. And the honesty of our brains, we tend to daydream a lot. So when people go into things that we're not that interested in, it's just natural that we will drift off and then come back. I know one people will comment like, I didn't know how I was able to drive from here to here. And they realize that they daydreamed or, were thinking about other things. Same with people. So when we're learning about, when they're asking us, hey, tell us about this product, if we go into specs, we might lose them right off the bat. They want to know, will this help during a wet spring when I need to get the seed in the ground? Will this help me if my soil's really compacted? So again, if you're finding out what pain they have, you're able to provide that solution, and then they engage and they hear that, again, you're the expert, you're the guide to get them to have their everything in the ground in a timely manner. I think that that really does strengthen those relationships with your growers in your area.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, at the end of the day, what you just shared is crucial.
It is. It is. And it shows that, again, you know the area. It keeps them coming back to you because you know the soil types, you know everything. And when we review websites and we review the products on the website, it might be the exact same, we'll say cup over and over again. But if we start talking about what problem this cup solved, it solved that my beverage stays hot all day. And I could start talking about, my coffee used to get cold. I would get out here and come to the office and be frustrated in a few minutes because I wanted hot coffee. Or this time of year when it is going to get warmer, I can say how I want my beverage to be cold. And looking at the products that you currently list online or sell in your dealerships, find out what problem they solve so you can lead with that first. And if you do, you'll see that that's where your growers will gravitate to. You will actually see that they're looking for something to keep their beverages hot or their beverages cold. And therefore, you've talked about what you've already been able to solve. And then they see how that works with the conditions they're working with in the field.
I could have used a cup like that with a lid on it yesterday because I thought, oh, I'll have a big old cup of iced tea in here without a lid. And sure enough, I knocked it all over the floor.
See, and so that would be you'd be able to guide the next person looking for it because you have a story, you have a way to think it, all the way through. So, I mean, if we stop and remember how planting was last year or harvest was last year, and again, I'm going to keep referring to the what's most common in my life, and of course, it's with the agriculture and the farming. If we think of what problems we were able to solve last year and lead with those first this year, whether it be an e-blast, whether it be social media, whether we contact some of those growers and get a testimonial from them and add those testimonials to that page, it starts those conversations and gets it so much further down the road. Because if Joe knows that Stan solved a problem, they're going to want that exact same setup. And that is a tremendous help. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to help you with the lid yesterday, but I think that's one reason why I always make sure my lid's here, because more disasters have happened in this office than I want to admit.
I know. I felt like a 5 year old.
Yeah, no, 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 it happens. But um, so I think that's the main thing that I just wanted to make sure we cover today. And basically, the number one thing is to make sure that the farmer is the hero and that you are definitely the guide. That the parts and pieces, they're not the hero. That the farmer is actually the hero. Think about everything with empathy, and that truly will move you forward faster if you have that mind shift as to when you're listing your products. And then think of, you're going to sell the problem you solve. So yes, you do go right in, and then you want to build, have that clarity. I know we talk about clarity a lot, so that's the reason why I didn't go into it that deep today, because that builds trust. Again, any other dealership can list the specs and have the generic sell sheet. That's easy to do. What we're talking about today does take a little bit more effort to think about. If I go around my showroom, if I go around my website, if I just interact with growers, what are they asking? What are their pains? How can we solve them? How can my business, your dealership, be the guide to get them where they want to do in that successful planting year? So, Brad, what else would you like to add?
I would have to say that was very profound how you laid that out, explained that, and really just knocked it home, you know? So I don't know that I can add to it, but you speak wisdom. This is real life stuff, and this is what's going to move the needle.
Thank you. Because confusion definitely kills sales. I mean, if they have to think, if anybody has to think too hard about what you're trying to convey on your website or your digital footprint or within your dealership, it is not going to lead to sales. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap that up. This has been a fun episode. And again, we're going to recommend the StoryBrand book if you want to go deeper into very specifics. Great place to start. We're here to help. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask us any specific questions. But as we say here in Harvesting Groves, with activation, we want you to get out and play in the dirt. So enjoy.
Perfect.